Live from San Francisco on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network, you are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with your hosts, Bryan Alvarez and Mike Sempervive.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on!
How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Well, it started, begins this week, and it never ends, at least for the foreseeable future. Everything changes this week, and we are here to cover it with you on Wrestling Observer Live. Tonight is the season debut of Monday Night Raw, whatever that means. It's another Monday Night Raw. We got a new announce team, got a lot of changes. We're going to go over everyone's favorite Raw 5-point preview, or whatever they call it now, here in a moment. Then, of course, on Wednesday, we've got AEW and NXT going live head-to-head for 2 hours. AEW on TNT, NXT on the USA Network. On Friday, SmackDown moves to Fox. It is going to be a gigantic show, all sorts of things going on. And then, of course, we have a draft coming up. We have Hell in a Cell coming up on Sunday, and it never ends. And, of course, other shows are going to be popping up as well in different time slots, but those are the major national television shows on major national outlets that are kicking off this coming week. We're going to tell you how things are going to change slightly on our own website if you're a subscriber. Basically, if you want to know what you need to watch without having to watch it, well, we're going to watch all of it for you, and you can listen to our reviews and decide, well, what do I need to see? What's important? What are the best matches? What are the worst matches? What are the best storylines? We'll tell you about that here today on the show. I also watched 9 million things this weekend. So if you want to talk about New Japan at the Hammerstein, if you want to talk about the CMLL anniversary show, no, sadly, I've not seen the Minis Mask match yet. I'm going to try and watch that tonight, but I did see the top 2 matches. The UFC show from this past weekend as well. We've also got the full preview for Hell in a Cell and the full preview for all of the other shows as well. We'll take your phone calls today at 844-411-5411. That is toll-free, 844-411-5411. And your text messages to 425-780-7566. And we will kick it off after the break. Wrestling Observer Live.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Bryan Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also WrestlingObserver.com. If you want to give us a call today, 844-411-5411. Text message is 425-780-7566. Hey, let's keep it on topic, what's going on this week, and let's also try to make this show better. Don't call me and tell me that everything sucks, that HD production looks fuzzy on your screen. None of this BS here today, everyone. We got serious stuff to talk about here today, like the brand new schedule for the Bryan and Vinny show starting this week. If you are a subscriber, this is the way we're going to do it. Retro Raw Nitro from 19 years ago this week remains on Tuesday. Some people baffled that people want to listen to reviews of old wrestling, but guess what? It's probably the most popular Bryan and Vinny show that we do. So that's staying there. And no, I would not watch Nitro from the year 2000 if nobody was listening. I think that should be very clear to anybody with a brain. Thursday will now be the Wednesday Night Wars. So if you want to listen to the reviews of the Monday Night Wars, that'll be Tuesday. The current Wednesday Night Wars will be reviewed on Thursday. AEW and NXT. Vinny and I will be reviewing both of those shows every Thursday on the Bryan and Vinny show. Sunday will now be Granny's Night. Sunday we will take turns reviewing NWA World Championship Wrestling from the 80s, as well as WWF Superstars of Wrestling, although they only have 4 more of those or 5 more of those up on the WWE Network. So I'm not sure how much longer those are going to last unless they hopefully will upload more of those. And on WWE Pay-Per-View Weeks, we will, of course, review the WWE Pay-Per-View, which, of course, is this coming Sunday for WWE Hell in a Cell. So that is the new schedule. Everybody's going to get what they want. You're still going to get your NWA. You're still going to get your superstars. You're still going to get your Retro Raw Nitro. And if you want Vinny reviewing current wrestling, you're still going to get AEW and NXT. Presumably, I'll be reviewing the SmackDown show on Fridays with Dave. I think that is the plan. I think Dave and Garrett are going to do Wednesdays. Not sure about that yet. Obviously, the Raw Report's still on Monday nights, Wrestling Observer Radio. And everybody else doing all the other shows as well. So, no shortage of things to talk about. It's going to be crazy. What's everybody watching? Call me, text me, let me know. You guys going to try and watch everything? Or is everybody going to pick and choose? I think there's going to be more picking and choosing than ever before. And we're going to find out how many people try out Raw and SmackDown this week. And more importantly than that, not just how many people try it out, but how many people decide to stick with it 3-4 weeks from now. That's going to be the big question. Mike, what are your thoughts on all of this?
I think coming out of this weekend, I'm going to start watching CMLL to see how many guys stop appearing on shows and want to try their apply their trades or wherever it is somewhere else. The anniversary of all things that took place this weekend, the one that's flying under the radar is that the deal with CMLL and Rush and Dragon Lee leaving because of the effect it's going to have on other promotions with a higher profile in America. Dragon Lee with New Japan and Rush obviously with Ring of Honor. They sound like they're going to have to give up their names because they're owned by CMLL, but it's one of those stories that because of everything else that's going on, it's going to be more newsworthy later on, and I think the ripple effects are going to be felt later on. And for right now, it just seems to be mid-card issues that have plagued CMLL because of the changes in the way that they're doing business. But depending on the success that these two have and depending on the way that CMLL decides to do their business, it's going to be very interesting. And, again, some of the bigger names, your L.A. Parks, your guys like that, guys who may have an impact on something here in the States, literally on Impact or in AEW or maybe somewhere else. I mean, it's going to be very, very, very interesting, I think. And, again, this is just a smaller story from this weekend, but just adds on to the pile of stuff for this week.
All right, so here is the Raw 5-point preview for tonight, or whatever they call it now. We got Seth Rollins to defend the Universal title against Rey Mysterio. That is tonight. This is one of those WWE things. I'm excited for the match. Hopefully the match is going to be good. But this is just classic WWE. This is a big show tonight. And if you're going to do Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio, I mean, probably would have been a good idea not to beat Rey Mysterio like a drum for the past 6 months, but whatever. They don't think long-term, so this is just like a last-minute thing right here. So Seth Rollins, Rey Mysterio tonight on Raw. This, of course, is the go-home show for Hell in a Cell. So the go-home show for Rollins versus White in a cage is Rollins putting the title on the line against Rey. So my guess is that Bray will interfere in this match, probably lay out Rey. Who knows? Maybe he'll lay out Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan, who are going to be on Miz TV tonight. He's going to be doing something with them. I don't even know. I guess just, they're there. So he's going to talk to them. Brock Lesnar returns to Raw tonight. Brock is probably going full-time to SmackDown. I suspect he's going to win the title from Kofi Kingston on Friday, but he's going to be on Raw tonight. We have got Alexa Bliss versus Sasha Banks for the women's title. Do I even need to read this? Sasha Banks has been a one-woman wrecking crew leading up to her Raw Women's Championship match against Becky Lynch at Hell in a Cell, and Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross have been her punching bags of choice over the last couple of weeks. After defeating Cross on Raw, Banks will next get a crack at the Goddess. Only Alexa is unlikely to sit back and allow herself to be reduced to a roadblock on Banks' path to hell. For one, Little Miss Bliss's grudges with Banks go back years and include a contentious rivalry over the Raw Women's title in 2017. For another, Banks and Bayley seemingly injured Bliss during a tag team match on Raw 2 weeks ago, making the rivalry... Oh, yeah, you remember that, everybody? I'd totally forgotten. In other words, the notoriously vicious Bliss is certainly out for retribution, and if the boss was looking to coast into Hell in a Cell unscathed, she might have another thing coming. Yeah, do you guys remember when Alexa got carted out 2 weeks ago, and then they just totally dropped it? Yeah, that happened. So anyway, they're facing off tonight. And yes, believe it or not, after burying Cedric Alexander on the last pay-per-view and burying him the next night on Raw and beating him again and again, now he gets another U.S. Championship match against AJ Styles because it's WWE. Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode also facing Heavy Machinery for the tag team titles. That's the lineup tonight. Anyone expecting any title changes? A lot of belts on the line.
Possible. I wonder how many people out there will not be watching that and instead taking the alternate option, Joey Janela's last show for Game Changer Wrestling. I'm sure there's going to be a sliver of people out there. I know AEW fans are going to be paying attention to it to make sure he doesn't kill himself on the show. But, yeah, that's going to be tonight, I guess, on streaming through Fight TV or whoever it is. I guess the independent wrestling.tv. But, yeah, the GCW show, Joey Janela. So hopefully he'll be in one piece come Wednesday night.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Brian, this is Russell in Friendswood.
Yes, Russell.
I think there's something about this Fox deal that no one's pointing out. Like, before they signed the deal, their stock was at like $50, then it doubled, now it's about $70. So, like, Fox is like unofficially, without owning, they control 30% of WWE stock. So if they get into it with Vince, the board will say, well, what's more valuable right now, Vince or 30% of our entire company? Like,
what?
I see this, you can start promoting Saudi Arabia right away.
Wait, hold on a second. Start over again. What's the big problem here?
The Fox is so invested in WWE. Ever since the Fox deal, it's added 30% to the stock.
Okay.
That's like Fox having 30% control. I mean,
no, that's not like stock. That's not like Fox having 30% of the control.
Well, not officially, but they have the pressure now. They can say, "Hey, we don't like what y'all are doing. We'll cut the deal." And you'll instantly lose 30%.
No.
Yeah, but if you're going with that scenario, by that case, the tail that wagged the dog at USA is WWE programming, so WWE can just take that out on USA then, couldn't they?
USA needs WWE, so they don't give Vince trouble. For Fox, they're so huge. Like, this isn't a thing.
Well, hold on a second, buddy. Listen.
Ridiculous
You're totally overthinking this.
Yeah.
Fox obviously felt they needed WWE on Fridays. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given them that deal. Right? Yeah. That's why they gave them a tremendous... There was a bidding war between USA and Fox. Fox won. So Fox clearly feels like they need WWE on Fridays. We'll talk about this more after the break. Observer Live.
Listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Bryan Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. I don't know how these contracts are working with Fox and WWE, but there's contracts. And Fox has paid for SmackDown. Fox has not paid for control of the company. They have not paid for control of whether or not they go to Saudi Arabia. They have not paid for control of who's going to become the champion. They paid for the television show. And obviously, there's going to be some influence. Like, they want it to be a big show. I mean, if you did a draft and you sent everybody from the main roster to Raw and you gave the NXT guys to Fox, I mean, there's going to be some problems. But, I mean, that's it. That's the way this is. I mean, there's WWE. I mean, USA paid them for years. TNN paid them. They got other deals with the USA Network. I mean,
it's business. It's a business deal. Period.
There's always some influence, but Fox is not going to be doing this. Hey, you can't go to Saudi Arabia. We don't like it. Hey, you can't push this guy as the champion. We don't like it. It's not going to happen.
And guess what? If they crap the ratings or crap the bed when it comes to the ratings and Fox has to cancel them, it doesn't mean in the future or even while it's going on that the show would not be a fit on FS1 or would not be a fit here or would not be a fit there. It's just business. That's how it goes. And, yeah, WWE needs to be sensitive to Fox's needs and the need to put on a really good show and to get that rating and everything like that. But to act as though they are beholden, I mean, actually, if anybody, like I said, is beholden in any situation, it always seems to be USA with WWE, especially right now while they try to develop some new shows that try to take off. They are really reliant upon WWE. So, I mean, if there's a really a crooked, exchange in all of this, realistically, it's actually the one way. It's actually the network to WWE, and that's USA.
All right, let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. It's BJ from Arizona.
What's happening?
So I'm going to Raw tonight, and as you know, I'm a huge NXT fan. I was just wondering, I don't know if you had heard anything. Is there any chance that any of the NXT guys show up on the show tonight to get over the fact that
absolutely
this show is like?
I would be very surprised if nobody from NXT showed up tonight.
Gotcha. I'm really hoping so. And then also, just one last question: I saw John Morrison is coming back to WWE. Do you know if that starts tonight, or
no idea?
Do they have any date on him yet?
No idea.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for the call. Yeah, listen, they're at war with AEW, and they've announced a watch-along. They're going to do an NXT pre-show. They're going to do all sorts of things. They're going to push that NXT show so hard tonight. I wouldn't even be surprised if, they did a show-closing angle with NXT guys running in and doing some sort of something. I mean, we'll see. They can put it at any point during the show. I mean, if they do a Bray Wyatt thing at the top of the third hour, they could end the show with NXT, or they could switch. I don't know what they're going to do. I have no idea if NXT is going to be there. If it were my show and I was going to war with AEW and I wanted to make sure that I beat them on Wednesday night, for sure I'd do an AEW angle or an NXT angle on Monday night. But we'll see. All right. Some news here. There is plenty of it. Goldberg, next edition of WWE Chronicle. These are pretty good. It's going to be airing directly after Hell in a Cell on Sunday, October 6th. Obviously, they did one with Sasha Banks on whatever day that was, the day after the Clash of the Champions show. These documentaries are always great. The Kane documentary, I watched it last week. It was awesome. It's actually not a Kane documentary. It's a Hell in a Cell 1997 documentary. And it's actually surprising that they put it on the network in the sense that when you watch it, they kind of explain this. Shawn Michaels doesn't have a great memory about that period. So what he claims happened and what actually happened are kind of two different things. But point of it is, they show you the storyline for Hell in a Cell dating back to SummerSlam and all of the twists and turns and everything like that. And you watch that, and then you think about, well, in 2019, what did they do? Well, Bray Wyatt went on the Firefly Funhouse. He challenged Seth Rollins to a Hell in a Cell match because October is Hell in a Cell month. I mean, that's what they did. It's ridiculous. It's painful to watch what they did back then and compare it to what they do today. And also just there was so much violence in the match. There was so much blood. It was just a crazy match, and you're not going to get anything like that at Hell in a Cell today. But it was a great documentary, so I think that the Goldberg thing would probably be pretty good as well. And also, Kevin Dunn announced that Pyro is returning. For all of you that care, and there are a lot of you, I could not possibly care less. But when I talk about Pyro, people get very passionate. Oh, I can't even watch WWE anymore because they don't have Pyro. Once I got rid of that Pyro, I quit watching. Well, you can start watching again because Pyro is coming back to Raw and SmackDown this week. We're bringing back Pyro to both shows, he says. Flames, lasers. We're rolling out completely new sets, opening logos, graphics, theme music for both Raw and SmackDown. It is WWE Premiere Week. And he says, for the first time ever, we're going to have dedicated writing teams. Raw led by Paul Heyman and SmackDown led by Eric Bischoff. We'll see how much of that is the case.
Well, it's not a bad thing that they're going to have new logos and sets and graphics and all that sort of stuff. I don't think that's, and the Pyro, hey, look, everybody loves Pyro. Brian, you're the only one who doesn't love Pyro. I can't believe that people would stop watching over it, but you know what, hey. Just another aesthetic to add to the show, and if Fox is doing all that sort of stuff. And, look, people have warm and fuzzy memories for the Attitude Era, and that's why There's going to be so many attitude people. I know Hulk Hogan is as well, too. But, Steve Austin and The Rock in that era, they still remember that. And they remember all the explosions and all the hullabaloo that would take place on those shows. And, sometimes people remember that a lot more fondly than some of the content on the shows. So as long as this time around the content matches the explosions, everything will be just fine.
All right, let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hello?
What's up? All right, thanks so much for the call. I can't take this anymore. No more calls. I don't know why this is so difficult. Text us, everybody, 425-780-7566. It is official that 205 Live is moving to Fridays. So if you're a fan, it is once again going to be airing with SmackDown. 205 Live will make the move to Fridays, air live on the WWE Network, 10 p.m. Eastern. Beginning this Friday, October 4th, the most exciting hour on television. That's how they describe 205 Live. The most exciting hour on television. It is moving to Friday nights as part of this WWE Premiere Week. The home of the Cruiserweights is moving to Fridays, 10/9 Central, streaming live on the award-winning WWE Network. As I talked about many times now, the explanation is that they don't want to burn out the NXT audience by having 205 Live air before or after NXT. And to me, I don't even get it. It's like NXT is 2 hours, SmackDown is 2 hours. Are you not going to burn out the SmackDown audience by having NXT or 205 Live air before and after? How is it any different whether it's on Wednesdays or Fridays? Not to mention, 205 Live is going to be handled by the NXT crew. So if anybody from the NXT crew needs to be there for 205 Live, instead of just being there on Wednesday because they're already there, now they're going to have to work Wednesday and Friday because 205 Live is inexplicably being moved to Friday. So that's the update on 205 Live.
They had all the opportunity in the world to get rid of the show. You don't need the show. These guys could be blended in to the other 7 hours of programming that you have, especially on NXT. I just don't get it. I really don't. Why you can make a show called 205, whatever you want to call it, 205 Alive. Who the hell cares? Where you run matches that maybe people didn't see or maybe they would skip through or whatever it is. You could do that and put that together and make it first run on Friday. You could put more focus on these documentaries and things that you're doing if you're so concerned with the eyeballs on Friday. I don't know. I just don't see how this is a winning concept, and they really are making it even more difficult. And I guess it just doesn't make any sense at all to me. And how does this help anybody in that division? So what? They have their own show. What does it matter? Seriously, what does it matter?
I don't know. What's going on over there?
I don't know. I got Sirius talking.
First says, man, I feel burned out already. I haven't even watched any wrestling this week yet. Well, let's watch some, and then we'll determine if we're burned out or not. Not to mention, you don't have to watch everything. Like I do. But if you're listening to this right now, you don't have to watch everything. I'll watch it, and I'll tell you. You have to. Talking about the listeners. I'll watch it. I'll tell you what you need to watch. If you want to try and watch everything, go for it. But I don't understand, if it's not your job, you don't have to watch everything and burn yourself out and decide you don't like wrestling anymore. Just watch the important stuff. That's the key to being a fan here in 2019. First says AEW just signed a merchandising deal with Hot Topic. Well, there you go. New merchandising deal. And this person wants to know, would Wrestling Observer Radio beat 205 Live in the ratings? It's possible. Yet in the YouTube numbers, it is possible.
I don't know about this show.
All right, this guy's plan. People are sending in their plans for what they're going to do. This person says skip Raw, watch AEW live, watch NXT live on a second TV on mute. So he's going to watch the audio with AEW, but mute NXT. Watch the good stuff afterwards. Watch SmackDown live, and then he adds, this only applies to week 1. And he'll figure everything out at week 2. Back in a moment, Observer Live.
You You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Bryan Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
All right, listen, everybody. Very stressed out. A lot of things going on. Personal life, got a new baby, don't sleep a lot. Got all these shows coming up this weekend. I'm trying not to be a jerk, but listen to me. I'm going to open up these phones again and listen very carefully. In fact, I'm shutting off right now because someone's calling now. Listen. Before you start calling, listen to me. Dial the number, 844-411-5411, okay? If you hear this show, you're next. There's no call screener, okay? If you hear the show, you're next. When I say, caller, you're on the air, that means that here on this live international radio program, you're on the air. So start talking. Cut out the small talk. Just ask your question. Get to the point. If you don't want to be yelled at, if you don't want to mess it up, then don't call. There's a lot of people listening that can call right now. But let's stop with this not figuring out how to use the phones thing. All right? There's a stereotype of wrestling fans that I don't believe, but don't perpetuate the stereotype by not figuring out how to use a telephone. Has everybody got it? The phone lines are open. If you think you can do this, call. If not, don't. Send me a text message, 425-780-7566. Why do I have to lose my mind like this? I have no idea why this is so hard. Do we really need like a guy here on the air that goes, hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your question? Okay, stand by. Like if we need to do that, I mean, I guess we can, but I don't need Dom to do more work. I'm trying to make his life easier. Do you understand? I want to make everyone's life easier. All right, let's go to the phones. You're on the air. There's plenty of time. What's going on?
Hello. Hi. What are the main superstars moving in the draft next week?
We don't know who the main superstars are moving because the draft hasn't happened yet. But my presumption would be that Roman Reigns is going to SmackDown and Brock Lesnar is going to SmackDown because the idea is that SmackDown is now the A show. Raw is no longer the A show. Raw is the secondary show. For the time being, SmackDown is going to be the A show. So when they do that draft, SmackDown, and at the beginning of the year I said this wouldn't happen, and it didn't. But now it's going to happen because the show's actually starting. SmackDown is going to get the premier roster. And as much as it pains me to say this, part of them getting the premier roster is they are getting what Vince considers the premier announce team of Michael Cole.
Still hammering this.
Yes, Michael Cole and Corey Graves and I guess Renee. Renee may or may not be on the show because she's doing the Tuesday show with Booker T as well, the WWE Backstage. But that's their premier announce team. So that's why they're going to Friday nights. Michael Cole will be there tonight, but tonight is the night they kick off the new announce team. It's Vic Joseph and, Dio Madden and Jerry Lawler. And
yes, your number one announce team, your personal number one announce team, correct?
Well, I mean, they have the potential to be the number one announce team. Cole is going to be there tonight producing them. So there you go.
So already they're off to a better start than, like, say, Cole was or the Graves was because I guess Cole will be the one in their ear as opposed to Vince. And I know why you don't like Corey Graves and Michael Cole and Renee, and I get it. I mean, believe me, I get it. But I don't blame them. I blame the system. And if the system is changing, that's going to be good news. Now, obviously, it's Vince's show. We'll see how this thing shakes out. We're wondering how he's going to deal with NXT, let alone how we're going to deal with the reboot of Raw. But if Cole really is the one, like, producing them, boy, that would be really nice. It really, really would be, because at least he can help them along because he's been yelled at for Vince for so long.
Like I yell at the callers. What a coincidence.
Yes, if somebody could at least be that buffer there and be the translator for Vince and maybe pass things on in a little bit more of a constructive way, we won't have the situations we've had where Mick Foley just up and quit. And we've had some of the issues we've had over the years where people get shrunken down into what they become.
Wow, look at this. If Lesnar... First off, this person notes, I'm going to Raw tonight. I've been a wrestling fan for 30 years. This will be the first time I've ever seen Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair in person. So I'm pretty excited. Wow, how about that? And he also notes if Lesnar ends up winning the WWE title and The Fiend wins the Universal title, they could face each other at Survivor Series. Because this year's Survivor Series is once again Raw versus SmackDown. Can you imagine that program? They build The Fiend as an unstoppable monster. Lesnar is Lesnar. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. If they do The Fiend versus Lesnar, I predict no finish. Like, I don't see them beating either of those guys. I could be wrong, but I just see that being as a no finish. This person's got a picture of the new Raw stage, and boy, is it something. He explains that it looks like more of the same, but the one that I'm looking at, I mean, they got that big Titantron there, and they haven't had a Titantron for a long time. I don't know if people have noticed, but it hasn't been there. So they got a huge Titantron. Then they got like a curved ramp that heads down, which is interesting, and then a hole where the guys come out, and then another flat ramp. So it's different. I think it's different. Watch somebody say they've had that there for 5 years, you've never noticed, but this definitely looks different to me. So we'll see tonight. All right, let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hello?
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, Bryan?
It's going fine. What's your question?
I have a comment, and I also have a question for you, but before I go ahead and do that, I just want to say thank you, man. You guys take me to my commute to work, bring me back home. I really appreciate all you guys do, especially you, man, being a new dad and all. So thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Thank you. What's your comment?
So my comment about CM Punk, here's the thing, man. I'm a diehard CM Punk fan. If he goes back to WWE, I'm done with him, man. Like, the thing with WWE, there's two things that are undoubtedly about them. Number one, they're petty. Number two, they're bullies. So if he goes back, it's just like, I don't know how I'll be able to support him. That's my comment. My question, in regards to AEW and the ratings, if they were to reach the level of, say, a Raw or a SmackDown, and I want both of your opinions, what do you think the reaction would be from WWE? Thanks for the call. Thanks for taking my call.
If they hit those numbers?
Yeah, if they were to hit like a Raw number or a SmackDown number, what do you think Vince's reaction would be? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I want to thank you very much for the call. If they beat Raw or SmackDown, then, I mean, Raw's probably moving to Wednesday or something. I mean, they'll draft Roman Reigns to NXT. I mean, I'm not making predictions about AEW. I don't know how they're going to do. I mean, the best prediction I made is I think they're going to do between 850 and 1.2 million. That's what I think they're going to do. I think both shows are going to range between 850 and 1.2 million. But you know what? I have no idea. Like, every time I make a prediction about AEW, I'm always wrong. And so, I mean, this may be the time where I'm finally right, but, I mean, do I think... There are people that think that this coming Wednesday, AEW is going to beat Raw. I do not think that. But you know what? Maybe it will. I have absolutely no earthly idea how that show is going to do. Now, if it beats Raw, I also don't know if it's still going to be beating Raw a month from now. I mean, a month from now, 6 weeks from now, that's what's important.
A week from now, I mean, my God, a week from now would be a lot to ask for, frankly.
Yes, that's the important thing. So, I mean, that's it. Like, we'll find out. Let's just wait and see. Now, as far as like the CM Punk thing, I mean, we've talked about this already. CM Punk, his agent or whatever, reached out to Fox, okay? His agent did not reach out to WWE. He reached out to Fox. Now, I know that some fans are going to say, well, if he does this WWE backstage show, you know, he's a sellout. I can't believe he went back. This is a Fox production. Yes, WWE is going to have some influence and whatever, but he would not be a WWE employee. He would be a Fox employee. For crying out loud, Dave told me I should try out for this show, which I'm not going to do, by the way. It's not a WWE show. It's a Fox show. It's a Fox show about WWE. So I don't know if he has any interest. I mean, he said he wouldn't not take their call. But, I mean, if CM Punk wanted to wrestle, then I feel like his agent would have approached WWE about wrestling. Because the reality is, no matter how much Fox is going to pay for the WWE backstage show, it's a lot less than what WWE is going to pay for you to be a main event wrestler. So I feel if he wanted to be a wrestler, that's who he would have contacted. I don't think that he wants to be a wrestler at this point. I mean, maybe he does, but he's 41 years old, got a lot of miles on his body. You got to remember why he quit. Then he went into mixed martial arts and was thrashed. I mean, mixed martial arts training, forget that he only had 2 fights. I mean, that training is brutal. So I don't know if the guy wants to wrestle. He was all beat up in 2014. It's now 2019. But maybe he wants to make some decent money doing that Fox show. So if you want to say that I consider him a sellout because he did the Fox WWE show, you're welcome to. But that's not going back to WWE. Just want to make that clear.
And whatever, I mean, look, but it's not, I'm not in his pockets. I don't care. Whatever he does, he actually goes and does. I don't know if sellout, maybe sellout's too strong of a word, but it is very surprising with everything that went on, with the papers being whatever it was, the fired on your wedding day, all of this stuff, when you combine it all together. The fact that there are so many options out there, it is a surprise that he would go for that. But if that's, if it truly is about money, then they probably could pay the most. So I guess why not look into it? So we'll have to see what happens with the whole thing. I can't believe that we're ever going to see him again back together with them. And frankly, how it goes right now, I don't know if we're ever going to see him with wrestling again, but we'll see.
This person here says NXT did 1 million, and every Twitter online poll I see that asks which show they're going to be watching live, AEW usually has 60 to 70% of the vote. Well, that would mean that AEW would do around 1.5 to 1.8 million. Which they very well could do. We'll find out. But I don't know if I would put too much stock into online Twitter polls. I mean, the real, we're going to find out when the show airs, how many people watch AEW. And there you go. The person here says, my plans are Raw and SmackDown. Since AEW and NXT aren't available in Canada Wednesday nights, watch along on WWE Network 8 to 10. And TSN shows, he was talking about UFC. There's no Canada deal yet for AEW, but I wouldn't be surprised if we had one before Wednesday. Maybe we won't, but I do think that if you're in Canada, you're going to be able to watch AEW. I don't know when, but I think it's going to happen. So, this person here says, I want to skate that new Raw stage. They should, yes, they should have hired Darby Allin before AEW got him. And his gimmick could have been skating down that new ramp. That would have been awesome. He'd be the most over guy on the show. Guaranteed.
It is impressive. I mean, what they can do with
it's
LED
a huge
screens.
half pipe is what it is. That's what the new screen is, everybody. You think I'm joking? Am I wrong?
They're going to run. I mean, I wonder if they have a smaller version of this that they put in smaller buildings. I mean, it is a hell of a production here. Yeah. Wow.
This person here says, any update on Fox and Dish Network? No. But this is not news. This is only speculation. I would be very surprised if there was not a deal by Friday. But we'll see. These things usually resolve themselves quickly.
Maybe a week after, so it may actually be a week, because sometimes they do take it, but people usually aren't without sports in fall season too long.
Back in a moment, Observer Live.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Bryan Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. So, this person says, though I'm a bigger fan of NXT than AEW, I plan to watch Dynamite live just out of curiosity. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Yeah, I wonder if NXT going on Wednesdays 2 weeks early, we've talked about this before, was actually like a positive for AEW. Because, A, wrestling fans were not used to Wednesday nights. And WWE, by giving NXT a 2-week head start, I mean, basically, they turned Wednesday into a wrestling night. And so now wrestling fans, to a degree, are watching on Wednesdays. And now there's something else on another channel on Wednesdays. That's potentially helping AEW. And the big one for week 1 is, I mean, if NXT didn't debut until this Wednesday, there'd probably be a lot of curiosity about what this show is going to be. I mean, the first week did a bigger rating than the second week, so there was curiosity. But now, if you've been watching NXT, you know what it is. And so if there's any curiosity, it's going to be for AEW. So I wonder if NXT, with that 2-week head start, helped them in that way as well. It's going to be very, very interesting. Oh, man, I'm probably not going to know the rating until the Friday show, because the ratings usually come in right after the show goes off the air. So wish we could talk about it Thursday, but it looks like that's probably going to be a talking point for Friday. But that's that. It's going to be a big week for ratings. Big week for NXT and AEW. Big week for Raw. They're promoting this one like crazy. Big week for SmackDown. They're promoting that one like crazy. So we'll see. It's going to be very, very interesting. Later on today, Filthy Tom Lawler is going to join me on Figure 4 Daily. We're moving to Mondays, and we got some shows to review here. Got to figure out how this is going to fit into everything, but that's coming up later on today. Want to thank Mike, as always, callers and listeners, everybody in the studio. Back again tomorrow for more Wrestling Observer Live.